The galaxy believed Earth was finished. Long ago, when humans were taken as slaves, no one thought they could ever rise again. Every species in the council had agreed to the chains. They said humans were too wild, too dangerous to be free. And so Earth's people were dragged across stars, broken under alien rule, and scattered in mines, factories, and farms on distant worlds. For centuries, humanity was silent. But silence is not the same as defeat. Deep inside the chains, humans waited. They remembered. They learned, and when the day came, the galaxy would know what that silence had been hiding. It began on a rainy night in the slave markets of Venor Prime, a wealthy alien world where nobles came to buy humans. The aliens laughed as they watched a group of new slaves arrive, their hands bound, their eyes lowered. But something was different about these humans. They did not look weak. Their steps were steady, their eyes sharp. One alien trader whispered to another that these humans stared too much, as if they were measuring every detail around them. The trader dismissed it, saying, "They are broken animals, nothing more." But that night 3 guards vanished from the marketplace. Their weapons were missing. Their bodies were never found. On the edge of the galaxy, a massive alien ship carried supplies for the Council's armies. The crew relaxed, thinking no one dared attack them. Then, without warning, the stars shifted. A shape moved from the darkness. It was not an alien vessel. It was human. Sleek, black, and silent, the ship came alive with white fire. Railgun blasts tore through the alien freighter like paper. No warning, no mercy. The ship disappeared before distress calls could even finish sending. When the Council reviewed the wreckage, they could not believe what they saw. The damage was human-made, but humans did not have ships. Or so the galaxy thought. Fear spread like a shadow. On hundreds of planets, humans in chains began to whisper. They spoke of Earth's return. Overseers tried to silence them, but strange marks began to appear on walls and doors, symbols carved into metal, scratched into stone, painted in blood. A single word in Earth's old language: judgment. In a luxury palace on the planet Okrath, alien nobles feasted while human servants bowed around them. One noble mocked a servant, saying, "Your kind is only strong when carrying our food." The servant said nothing. But that night, fires erupted across the city. Alien patrols tried to stop the chaos, but the attacks came from everywhere and nowhere. Explosions shattered guard towers. Alien soldiers fell to precise sniper shots. Streets filled with shadows moving like ghosts. By morning, the palace was ashes, and every noble inside was gone. On the ruins, someone had painted the same word again: judgment. The Council tried to deny the truth. They claimed it was rebellion, nothing more. They promised their people that humans were still weak, still slaves. But in secret meetings, the leaders whispered to each other. How had humans built ships? How had they armed themselves? How did slaves across so many worlds strike at the same time? None could answer. None wanted to. Far away, on a cold and ruined Earth, the sky glowed with hidden fire. Beneath oceans and mountains, humans had built cities in secret, powered by stolen alien technology. For generations, they had hidden their true strength. They were patient. They had watched the galaxy grow soft with comfort, blind with pride. And now the time had come. A fleet of human warships prepared for launch. Their hulls were black as night, their weapons glowing faintly with blue light. Soldiers stood in silence, their faces hard, their hearts steady. They remembered centuries of slavery, of humiliation, of death, and they carried one thought into the stars: humanity does not forgive. When the first fleet moved out of hiding, the galaxy felt the shock. Alien sensors picked up shadows moving across systems where no fleet should exist. Colonies vanished, armies went silent. Entire starports fell, without a single broadcast for help. It was not war. It was judgment. On the Council's world, ambassadors shouted at each other, demanding answers. Some called for peace. Others demanded the total destruction of humans. But deep down, each one felt the same cold fear. They had created this. Every species had agreed to Earth's slavery. Now they would pay the price together. One counselor asked the question none wanted to hear. What if humans never broke? What if they only waited for this moment? The chamber fell silent, because in their hearts they all knew the truth. Humanity was not fighting to be free. Humanity was fighting to punish, and so the galaxy braced itself. The age of human silence was over. The age of human judgment had arrived. The Council of Worlds met in panic. The chamber, a massive dome filled with glowing banners of alien empires, echoed with shouts and fear. Reports kept arriving. Human raids, human ships, human victories. None of it made sense. According to their history records, Earth had no fleets, no factories, and no chance. They had been stripped bare long ago. Yet here they were, appearing from the darkness, moving with deadly precision. One counselor, a scaled reptilian, slammed his claws on the table and shouted, "This is impossible! They are slaves, nothing more." But in his voice there was no certainty, only trembling doubt. Across the galaxy, the truth was spreading faster than the Council could silence it. Human slaves began to lift their heads. For centuries they had kept their eyes down, broken under alien rule. But now whispers filled the mines, the farms, the deep factories. Humans were no longer afraid. Overseers found themselves watched by the very people they once whipped. When they turned their backs, tools went missing. Weapons disappeared. Sometimes overseers themselves never returned. At first it was small, then it grew. Entire mining camps rose in revolt. Alien troops rushed in, but the rebels fought with strange coordination. They fought like soldiers. On the planet Korthos, an alien governor watched from his palace as smoke rose from the human quarters. His soldiers marched in with energy whips and cannons. He expected to see terrified slaves scatter. Instead, he saw humans moving in formation. They came from alleys, rooftops, and tunnels, attacking in waves. They used alien weapons with terrifying skill. His army was torn apart in hours. At night, the governor tried to flee in his shuttle, but the shuttle never launched. The humans had already taken the hangar. The last message he sent to the Council was a scream before static consumed the transmission. Rumors spread of a shadow network, the Iron Chain, humans who had secretly united across the stars. No one knew how they communicated, but their strikes happened at the same time in worlds light years apart. The Council launched investigations, but the investigators never returned. Ships sent to hunt the rebels vanished into the void. Alien warlords grew nervous. They began fortifying their planets, pulling fleets back to defend their homeworlds. But this only weakened their borders, leaving trade routes open to attack. Merchants complained that entire cargo convoys were vanishing. Captains spoke of dark ships sliding silently out of hyperspace, weapons glowing cold blue. They never hailed, never spoke. They simply destroyed, then vanished. Survivors, those few who escaped, swore they saw human faces on the viewscreens. Calm, merciless, eyes filled with the promise of vengeance. On a desert moon, an alien patrol stumbled upon something buried under the sands. At first, they thought it was an old ruin. But when they opened the doors, they found an underground hangar filled with human war machines. Drones, fighters, even carriers. Alarms blared. But before they could report back, the machines came alive. None of them escaped. The next morning, the Council received a broadcast from that moon. A human appeared on the screen, face hidden by a mask, voice cold and steady. He spoke only one sentence: "Your judgment begins." Panic turned into chaos. Species that had once stood together began blaming each other. Some said the insectoids had secretly armed humans. Others claimed the reptilians had lost control of their slave camps. None dared admit the truth, that every species had taken part in Earth's slavery, and now every species was a target. Old alliances broke, borders closed, armies recalled. The galaxy that had once laughed at humanity was now paralyzed by fear. On Earth itself, hidden cities awakened. Beneath oceans, vast domes of steel opened to release fleets. In the mountains, weapons older than memory fired for the first time. Humans had stolen, learned, and built in silence. They had taken alien pride and turned it into their own strength. For centuries they had been called prey, but now they moved like predators. Every strike was precise, every target chosen with care. They did not waste fire. They did not shout. They simply acted. A single human ship appeared above the Council's capital. At first, the defense grid laughed at the tiny vessel. But then, one by one, the grid's weapons went dark. A virus spread through the system, shutting everything down. Alarms screamed as the ship drifted closer. It did not fire. It only sent one transmission to the entire galaxy. The screen lit up in markets, homes, and military bases across thousands of worlds. A human stood there, tall and silent, his eyes hard. He spoke slowly, in a voice that reached every corner of the stars. You all took part in our chains. You all fed on our suffering. You thought we were broken. You thought we forgot. But humanity remembers. Humanity does not forgive. From this day, your worlds will know the weight of our judgment. Then the screen went black. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was silent. Alien families looked at each other with fear. The soldiers hesitated at their posts. Leaders argued behind closed doors. Every species that once felt secure now lived in terror of the shadows. Because they knew the humans were out there, watching, waiting, and ready, and the strikes were only beginning. The first real storm came without warning. On the rim of the galaxy, a massive alien mining world called Vernac prepared its monthly shipment of resources for the Council fleets. The planet's surface was covered in colossal machines, smoke rising into a sky dimmed by endless furnaces. Thousands of human slaves worked there, their backs bent under alien whips. Overseers laughed, believing themselves untouchable. But in the heart of the mines, deep underground, something stirred. Humans passed signals through hand gestures, glances, and quiet whispers. No words were needed. They had been waiting for this exact night. When the moons aligned and the overseers grew drunk in their towers, the uprising began. Explosions tore through the mining shafts. Human slaves charged out, armed not only with stolen tools, but with sleek rifles hidden for years. Alien soldiers rushed to respond, but they were too late. The humans moved in formation, silent, coordinated, as if every one of them had been trained soldiers. They struck at supply lines, at control rooms, at power stations. The entire planet trembled with fire. Above the mines, alien commanders ordered their warships to bombard the rebels. Massive cannons turned toward the surface. But before they could fire, the stars shifted. From the darkness, a fleet emerged. Sleek black warships, silent as death, slid into orbit. Railguns lit up like white fire across the void. Alien destroyers exploded before they understood what was happening. Their shields crumbled, their weapons turned to dust. The humans had come, not with whispers, but with open fury. The Council received the first transmission only hours later. The message was clear. The mines were gone, the fleets destroyed, and the planet was no longer theirs. A single word was burned into the broadcast feed in Earth's old tongue: judgment. The galaxy erupted in chaos. Entire sectors went on high alert. Fleets scrambled, patrols doubled, governors sent desperate pleas for reinforcements. But wherever they sent their forces, they arrived only to find wreckage and silence. Human fleets struck like shadows, then disappeared. No one knew where they hid. No one could track their movements. The Council demanded answers, but their spies could find nothing. It was as if the humans had become ghosts. On the planet Zipheron, alien leaders gathered in a great hall. They screamed at one another, blaming different factions for the chaos. The insectoid leaders accused the reptilian clans of secretly aiding humans. The reptilians swore it was impossible. The avians, with their sharp voices, demanded the extermination of every human slave immediately before the rebellion spread further. But others hesitated. They feared that killing slaves might only invite even worse wrath. For the first time in living memory, the Council could not agree. They were paralyzed. Meanwhile, the human resistance moved with purpose. They were not random rebels. They had a plan, and every move was precise. They struck not at the strongest fleets, but at supply chains. They cut off food shipments, stole weapons, and destroyed communication hubs. Alien soldiers who once laughed at weak humans found themselves starving on distant battlefronts, their ships without fuel, their armies without orders. The rebellion was no longer a whisper. It was a storm. In the shattered ruins of a council outpost, an alien commander begged for mercy as a squad of human soldiers surrounded him. His voice trembled as he promised riches, power, and even surrender. The humans said nothing. Their leader, a scarred woman with cold eyes, raised her weapon and ended him. She turned to her soldiers and spoke only 2 words: no forgiveness. Stories spread faster than the council could contain them. Merchants swore they had seen human fleets with weapons that bent light itself. Soldiers whispered of human commandos who could vanish into thin air, striking from shadows before dissolving into mist. Some swore the humans were no longer mortal, that slavery had turned them into something else, something the galaxy could not fight. Fear became legend, and legend became terror. On Earth, the hidden chambers of the resistance glowed with life. Vast halls built deep under mountains were filled with command stations, maps of stars, and endless lines of weapons. Generals planned every strike with ruthless patience. They had been preparing for centuries, and now every move was unfolding exactly as planned. Above them, the oceans parted as more fleets rose to the surface, their hulls glistening black, their engines roaring like storms. Humanity's silence had ended. Now their judgment burned brighter with each passing hour. In the council chambers, one elder finally admitted the truth. "We thought them broken," he whispered. "We thought their chains would last forever. But we were wrong. The humans were never broken. They were waiting." His words chilled the room. No one argued because deep in their hearts they all knew he was right. Across the stars, more uprisings erupted. Slaves who once cowered now rose with fire in their hands. Cities burned. Fleets vanished. Entire planets changed hands overnight. The galaxy trembled as one truth spread from world to world. Humanity had returned, and they had come not to ask for freedom, but to take judgment on all who once enslaved them. The war had only just begun. The galaxy had seen rebellions before. Entire species had risen and fallen against the might of the council. None had lasted long. But this was different. This was not chaos born of desperation. This was cold, calculated vengeance. Every strike carried precision. Every target was chosen with care. The humans were not fighting a war of survival. They were delivering punishment. On the rim world of Thras, alien nobles gathered in their high towers, convinced the humans would never reach them. They watched their fleets patrol the skies and laughed at the rumors of human ghosts. But one night the stars above Thras shifted. Their defense satellites, countless and strong, went dark one by one. Panic filled the towers. The nobles sent urgent orders to their fleets, but the fleets did not respond. By dawn the sky was silent. And then the fires came. Black ships fell from orbit, raining precise strikes upon the planet's strongholds. They did not destroy the entire world. They did not bomb civilians. They struck only at palaces, garrisons, and command centers. By the end of the day, every leader who had once traded humans like cattle was dead. Survivors found the same word painted in fire across the ruins: judgment. The council demanded answers. Armies were recalled from distant wars. Fleets were summoned home. Entire sectors were abandoned just to guard core worlds. But no matter how much strength they gathered, humans always struck where they were weakest. A convoy here, a governor's palace there, a hidden research base erased in silence. It was as if the humans had eyes everywhere. Then came the true terror. A name whispered in the shadows: Project Nemesis. No alien knew what it was. Rumors painted it as a weapon, a machine, a fleet larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Others said it was a virus, able to turn alien ships against their own masters. But when the first glimpse of Nemesis appeared, the truth was worse than anyone imagined. In the system of Draenos, an alien fortress world, defenses bristled across its skies. The Council had poured their strongest fleets into guarding it. When human signals were detected, the fortress unleashed a storm of fire. The void lit up with plasma, railguns, and missiles. Yet when the light faded, the humans had not fallen. They advanced, slow and unstoppable, their black hulls shining like blades. And behind them came Nemesis. It was not one ship. It was hundreds, Thousands, carriers larger than cities, destroyers in endless formations, swarms of drones moving like shadows. Entire fleets, born in secret, hidden for centuries beneath Earth's oceans, beneath mountains in caves of forgotten moons. They had been built in silence, in chains, under alien eyes that never noticed. Now they filled the stars. The defenders of Draenos never stood a chance. Their fleets were shattered in minutes, their fortress reduced to silence. Nemesis was revealed not as a single weapon, but as the rebirth of humanity's true power, an armada forged in patience, fueled by rage, and unleashed without mercy. News spread like wildfire. Planets that had once mocked the thought of human strength now trembled at the sound of their name. The insectoid hives locked their borders, terrified of raids. The reptilian clans recalled every ship, building walls around their homeworlds. The avian lords abandoned colonies, leaving millions to die just to protect themselves. Fear broke the unity of the council. Every species blamed another for the rise of humanity. Old allies turned cold. Old enemies grew sharper, and through it all, humans kept striking. They sent no ambassadors. They offered no deals. The only message they left behind was the same: judgment. In the council chambers, chaos reigned. Some leaders begged to sue for peace. Others shouted for total extermination of every human. But deep down, each one felt the same dread. They had no idea how far Nemesis reached. No idea how many fleets were waiting. No idea how much humanity had grown in the shadows. One counselor, trembling, asked the question aloud: what if Nemesis is not their full strength? What if this is only the beginning? His words spread through the chamber like poison. Silence followed, for none of them dared to answer. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, alien civilians began to whisper among themselves. They remembered the old days, the auctions, the markets, the laughter at human suffering. Now they wondered if the humans remembered their faces. Families hid in fear, wondering if Nemesis would come for them next. In the ruins of Draenos, a single transmission reached every corner of the galaxy. A human commander, his face shadowed, spoke directly to the stars. We do not come for peace. We do not come for forgiveness. We come for justice. And justice will not end until every chain is broken, and every hand that forged them has paid in blood. Then the signal ended, leaving only silence. For the first time in galactic history, the Council realized it might not survive, not because of an invasion, not because of conquest, but because the very species they once thought powerless had returned, stronger than anyone ever dreamed. Humanity had risen, Nemesis had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Council world was supposed to be untouchable. It was the shining jewel of the galaxy, a planet wrapped in 1,000 layers of defense. Armies from every species guarded its skies. Fleets patrolled its borders. No enemy had ever come close to it. The Council had ruled for millennia from that throne of power, believing no force could reach them. But that belief died the moment human fleets appeared at the edge of their system. At first, alien commanders laughed. They saw only a handful of dark ships sliding into view. They ordered their warships forward, expecting an easy victory. But as the fleets closed in, more shadows appeared, dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. The void filled with black hulls, engines glowing cold blue, railguns humming with deadly energy. It was the Nemesis Armada, revealed in its full size for the first time. The alien commanders stopped laughing. The first exchange was brutal. Alien fleets launched wave after wave of plasma fire, missiles and beams of light. The humans responded with precision. Their railguns tore through shields like paper. Their drones swarmed around enemy ships, cutting them apart piece by piece. Every strike was calculated. Entire alien formations disappeared in minutes. And for every human ship destroyed, 5 more seemed to appear from the shadows. On the Council world below, panic erupted. Civilians flooded the streets, staring at the sky, where fire streaked across the heavens. Leaders shouted in fear inside the Grand Chamber, demanding their fleets hold the line. But the line was already broken. Human ships slipped past the defenders with terrifying speed, positioning themselves in orbit above the planet. The Council's strongest defenses, built over centuries, fell in a single day. Inside the chamber, a reptilian warlord slammed his claws onto the table. "We must surrender now, before they erase us all." Others roared in anger, demanding resistance, insisting humanity could not possibly destroy the heart of the galaxy. But then the lights flickered. The great hall shuddered. The planet's defense grid, the most powerful ever built, was shutting down. Not from bombardment, but from inside. Human code had slipped through their systems like poison. Every weapon, every shield, every tower turned dark. The impossible had happened. The Council world was defenseless. From orbit, the humans sent their message. A single transmission played across every channel, reaching soldiers, civilians, leaders, and slaves across the galaxy. A human voice, cold and steady, spoke. "You enslaved us. You broke our children. You fed on our pain. Now the debt is due. We are not here to bargain. We are not here to plead. We are here to deliver judgment." The message ended, and silence filled the stars. On the ground, alien leaders scrambled for escape. Shuttles launched from palaces, rushing toward the upper atmosphere. But one by one they exploded, cut down by precise human fire. No one escaped. The Council had thought themselves eternal, untouchable. Now their towers burned, their fleets shattered, their leaders hunted like prey. Across the galaxy, news spread faster than light. The Council was falling. The very rulers who once demanded obedience were now begging for mercy. But none was given. On planets where humans still wore chains, overseers were slaughtered by their own slaves. Colonies erupted into chaos as entire populations rose to join the rebellion. Nemesis fleets appeared in system after system, striking without hesitation. Even species who had once stood proudly with the Council began to waver. Some attempted to surrender to humanity, hoping to be spared. Others betrayed their allies, desperate to save themselves. But the humans accepted no deals. Every species had taken part in Earth's slavery. Every species would be judged. In the Council chamber, the surviving leaders gathered one last time. They argued, cursed, and shouted, but their voices were drowned out by the distant sound of explosions. The walls shook as human forces drew closer. Finally, one elder spoke above the noise, his voice broken. "We thought we could chain them forever. We thought their silence meant defeat. But we were fools." Their silence was the sound of sharpening knives. Moments later, the chamber doors exploded inward. Human soldiers, armored in black, marched in with weapons raised. The leaders of the galaxy, the proud masters of stars, were dragged from their seats and forced to kneel. The Council had fallen. Above the planet, the human armada drifted in perfect formation. From the surface, terrified aliens watched the sky filled with black ships, stretching as far as the eye could see. They expected destruction, fire raining down to end their world. But the humans did not fire. They only watched, their silence heavier than any weapon, because humanity's message was already clear. They had no need to destroy the Council world. Its power was broken. Its fleets were gone. Its rulers were dead. The galaxy had seen the truth. Humanity was no longer prey. Humanity was the predator, and in that silence, a new fear spread across the stars. If the humans could take the Council world itself, then nowhere was safe. No planet, no empire, no fleet could stand against them. The age of the Council was over. The age of humanity's judgment had begun. The galaxy was broken. The Council was gone, its leaders dragged from their thrones, its fleets scattered like ashes in the wind. But humanity did not stop. To the rest of the species, victory over the Council would have been enough. To humans, it was only the beginning. Chains had been placed on their ancestors by every hand in the galaxy. Now every hand would pay. From one end of the stars to the other, Nemesis fleets spread like wildfire. Black ships appeared above insectoid hive worlds, reptilian fortresses, avian cities floating in the skies. They did not strike without purpose. Every target was chosen with cold precision. They hit command centers, weapon depots, slave markets. They cut out the hearts of power and left everything else trembling. Entire species watched as their rulers fell, their armies crumbled, and their skies filled with the shadow of human warships. On the insectoid homeworld, the Hive Queen broadcast a plea to humanity. Surrounded by her drones, she lowered her crown before the galaxy, begging for mercy. Her words were carried across the stars. "We will free the humans. We will pay the price. Only spare us." For a moment, silence followed. Then the broadcast was interrupted. A human figure appeared on every screen, eyes sharp, voice like steel. "Mercy ended when you placed the first chain. Judgment is absolute." Hours later, the Hive's great towers lay in ruins. The queen was gone, her crown buried in fire. The reptilian clans tried to resist. They gathered what fleets they had left, roaring their defiance. But their ships were old, their warriors scattered, their unity shattered by centuries of arrogance. When the humans came, the reptiles fought with all their fury. They lasted longer than most, but in the end their fleets burned all the same. Survivors whispered that the humans left their homeworld in silence, not destroyed, but surrounded. The reptiles could not leave, could not trade, could not breathe without Earth's permission. Their strength had been turned to dust. The avian lords fared no better. They were proud, their cities soaring above the clouds, believing themselves untouchable. But the Nemesis Armada came not from the ground, but from the skies themselves. Human dropships pierced their floating palaces, soldiers stormed through halls of glass and gold, and within days the avian nobility was gone. Their people, once laughing at human slaves, now cowered in silence. Across the stars, a new order spread. The galaxy realized too late that humans were not conquerors. Conquerors rule, take, and demand. Humans were something far worse. They were judges. They did not care for territory. They did not care for wealth. They did not ask for slaves, tribute, or obedience. They came only to deliver sentence. Entire species were forced to kneel, their leaders executed, their armies erased, their proud banners burned. Humanity left behind no empire of their own, only fear. Alien historians tried to explain it, but their voices were drowned out by terror. They said humanity had learned patience in slavery, learned silence in pain, learned unity in chains. While the galaxy mocked, humans remembered. While the galaxy feasted, humans sharpened. And when the silence finally ended, nothing could stop them. On a cold, ruined battlefield, an alien general lay captured before a squad of human soldiers. His people had once commanded thousands of human slaves, and he spat in defiance even in defeat. "Why do you not enslave us now?" he demanded. "Why not build your empire as we built ours?" The human commander looked down at him, her expression calm. "Because we do not want what you built. We want it ended." And with those words, his life ended too. The galaxy trembled as stories spread. On one world, a market where humans were once sold was burned to the ground, every stone shattered, every chain melted. On another, children who had been born in slavery walked free for the first time, looking to the sky where black ships drifted in silence. Across 1,000 planets, the word spread in whispers: judgment. At last, the surviving council races gathered one final time, not in their grand chamber, which lay in ruins, but in secret caves, hidden stations, places where fear ruled their hearts. They argued over what to do, how to survive, how to beg for peace, but before they could decide, the screens around them flickered. A human face filled the chamber. It was an elder, scarred and weathered, his eyes hard as stone. He spoke slowly, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. "You thought slavery would last forever. You thought silence meant defeat. But humanity never forgets. Humanity never forgives. We are the children of chains, and we are the hand of judgment. From this day forward, you will remember one truth: Earth bows to no one." The chamber shook as human soldiers stormed in, black armor shining, weapons glowing. The last remnants of the council were dragged into the light. No pleas were heard, no mercy was given. The galaxy's rulers were gone. And then, Silence again. Not the silence of chains, but the silence of fear. Human fleets lingered above worlds, watching, waiting, reminding every species of what had been done. There was no empire, no crown, no throne, only the promise that Earth was watching, and that if anyone dared to rise again, judgment would return. For the first time in history, the galaxy had no masters. The council was finished, the old order was ashes, and humanity, once slaves, now stood as the nightmare of every species that had ever mocked them. The silence they left behind was heavier than war, a silence that whispered into every heart, never again.